Good evening, everyone. I'm your technical critic, and today's technical critique will be on the season premiere of Revolution. Now, for those of you who don't know, this series has an excellent premise, asking the question, what would happen to the world if all the electricity on the planet just simply disappeared and everything was gone? Radio, TV, internet, poof! Sadly, it takes that premise and tosses it out the window in favor of a lot of exposition. And as good a show as this is, I cannot recommend it to anybody. Do not watch it. Don't look it up. If you're thinking of getting into a show, don't pick Revolution, no matter how good the trailers look. Because this show is like cocaine to geeks. For those of you who don't know, geeks thrive. They absolutely live to gather knowledge. That's why the internet is such a good tool for them. They can just suck all the knowledge out of the internet and just put it into their heads. This show, it just gives all the exposition, all the interesting things that should make this show good, and it just gives it to you in tiny little driblets, so you're sucking at the show like somebody who's been traveling through the desert and is just thirsty for water, and you come upon a tree with just a little bit of water or sap or something trickling down, and you're just like, give me more! And that's how this show keeps its audience coming. They clearly know who their fan base is, so they just keep pounding it out like that. And it takes forever to get anywhere in this show. There's a lot of traveling, there's a lot of talking, but at the same time, there's a lot of characters, a lot of unnecessary characters that just pop in and out at every inopportune moment. But it uses this time to at least develop their characters to a point where you feel that you know their personalities. So by the end of Season 1, we have all of our remaining characters who are going to be in Season 2. We have that climax where the electricity is turned back on and then something very terrible happens. I don't feel bad about spoiling it. What happens is the electricity turns back on, and somebody decides that they're going to nuke two of the biggest cities left on the continent of North America, and that's our cliffhanger ending. So, where does Revolution choose to start us back? 6 months later. Motherfucker, son of a bitch. And what do we find out? That not only did these two nuclear devices just so happen to hit both of the cities, Philadelphia and Atlanta, wiping them out and causing massive destruction in an age where you no longer have the beneficiary electricity to run proper hospitals, radiation treatment, burn wards, and all that other nice stuff, medicine and anesthesia, and all those other things that go along. So you can just imagine the death toll is climbing. So we don't know. So here's what we don't know at the start of halfway through the episode. 1, we don't know how they got out of the tower, the place where you can turn the electricity back on. 2, we don't know why they didn't put the electricity back on after they turned it off again in an attempt to stop the missiles. 3, we do not know what happened to anybody in that last 6 months, and they're using the exact same tactic they're using in Season 1. Here's all of this pertinent information we need to know to advance the story forward. Instead of presenting it to us so that we can push the plot forward, we're going to take it in a whole bunch of flashbacks and just milk it and try and give it to the viewer as slimly as possible, so that they continue to come back to the episode, so they continue to try and grasp onto that. At the end of the last season, they turned on the electricity. Now it turns off. Now it turns out they've turned the electricity back off again in a matter of 4 minutes. So there is exactly 4 minutes of power throughout the entire world. Why? Because this show, its only premise is, what would society be like if there was no electricity? Not, okay, how would society start to rebuild if suddenly it managed to get electricity back? Because we know what society turned into if we don't have electricity. We saw all that through Season 1. You have basically a revertment to pre-20th century life, where you have farmers markets, large cities that thrive on agriculture, people warring over land and resources, all that stuff. And you have in between these small civilized areas, bands of raiders and warlords and all these other things that go along with uncivilized society and the collapse and breakdown of the social order. Fine, we went through that already. Now we're back. Civilization has been crushed to a smithereen, and we are starting all over again at square one. I'm not sure what they're trying to accomplish. I think what happened is a lot of people complained, well, in this world without electricity, we don't have it post-apocalyptic enough. So this was their attempt to make it even more post-apocalyptic, to turn it basically into a zombie runner movie, or into into the Road Warrior, I guess. Which it didn't need to be. But that aside, let's look at our characters. Well, first of all, this episode took way too long to come back. It took about 8 months, I think, for this 6 to 8 months for this for the next season of Revolution to start. And by this time, I've got shows like Breaking Bad, The Vampire Diaries. I started watching Avatar. I started doing The Legend of Korra, which I still hate. So by this time, and in this media-heavy world of entertainment, I have completely forgotten who the majority of these characters' names are, much less what they do. And I think this was their intention, because when you look at these characters and you look at who they were in the first season, complete reversal. Let's take Charlie, the main girl that we've been following since season 1. Well, here we have someone who's an upright, seemingly moral character. She knows who she is. She seems to know what she wants, and she generally is seems to be a very well-rounded person, and who is able to deal with the conflicts of life that come at her. Where do we find Charlie? In a bar, by herself, hooking up with a bartender. Just a complete betrayal of her character. And why is this? Because apparently her mom, Rachel, went crazy after they tried to turn off the electricity to stop the atomic bombs. They failed, and she feels absolute guilt for some reason, even though it's not her fault that any of this happened. And then we have Miles. Honestly, I had no idea who Miles was. I thought he was General Monroe, until TP very generously corrected me over the phone. Oh, you mean Miles? Oh, yeah, that's right, Miles Matheson, who's now calling himself by some fake name. Why, I don't know. It's not as though he's still being hunted by the Monroe militia, which clearly disintegrated in the aftermath of the bombing of their main city, Philadelphia. Oh, also, Charlie, while being a much sluttier version of herself, or as feminists would prefer to call, sexually open, has decided that she's going to be hunting General Monroe. Why? I have no idea. She tracks him down to this, they call it New Las Vegas, which is everything that you would think it is. And she basically tries to kill him with her crossbow, and then he's kidnapped by 2 people. Who they are, we have no idea. Why they're kidnapping him, we have no idea. Again, exposition rivulets. And then we see Neville, probably the most badass character in this entire series, is a complete train wreck as he's searching for his wife, who's probably melted to a nuclear puddle of waste. And he basically wants to kill himself until the American government appears. And like most Tea Partiers, they're saying we have evidence that that both the Georgia Federation and the Monroe Republic are the ones responsible for launching these weapons of mass destruction, and lots of this Tea Party bullshit that you see in modern society. And now he has new purpose, either because they're lying and he doesn't like it as the new head of the Monroe Republic, or which he's doing a fine job, by the way, of leading, in a refugee camp in the middle of the Plains Nation that is literally the size of a small city. The graphic effects in this show are pretty awesome, I have to admit that. But other than that, oh my god, such a slow draw out. Some people like that, and I do to a certain extent. I love silent exposition, but this isn't silent exposition. This is character building on a snail's pace scale. So he sees the American government, and he basically says, "I will be Gustavo Fring again," and there we go. Our most badass character is back, and you're made to like him first, and it's a good trick they pull. Firstly, they make you sympathetic to his character because you see him wanting to kill himself over the death of his wife, and then you see him with purpose again. And you're like, I was sympathetic to him, and now I see him as a powerful person. I like him. This is how Hitler got started, with Mein Kampf, and then his political career. Ay, ay, ay. So that's my review. So really, it's choppy, like it always is. Oh, I almost forgot. They have started to kill off useless characters, because Aaron, who is the only person who knows how to turn the power back on, gets sliced in the chest when this raiding party comes out of nowhere to just attack this town that everybody just so happens to be living in. Forced conflict. Anyways, so someone tries to kidnap his new wife, and he, like a badass, takes a baseball bat and attacks this person, who drops his wife. She runs into the other room, and he proceeds to get slashed in the chest with a sword. And I'm thinking, finally, we're killing off one of the most useless characters in this entire series. He was a living MacGuffin for how we get to the tower and turn the electricity back on and then turn it off. So you would think he has no more purpose. And we see him die. The doctor pronounces, "Oh, he's gone." He checks his neck, no pulse. And then, right at the very end of the show, we see his body lying there, and Rachel's crying over, and then suddenly he wakes up, and it's like, motherfucker, come on! If you're gonna give us that kind of kill off build up, keep him dead. That was at least one thing that this show did well. When it killed off a person, it didn't rely on cheap tricks like that to just bring somebody back from the dead. But anyways, those are my feelings on the first episode of the second season of Revolution. I'm gonna keep watching it, not because I like the show, but simply because I have to. I'm addicted to it, and I don't like it. But hopefully, by talking to you guys and working out my feelings on this show, I can eventually let it go, the same way I did with Pretty Little Liars. I'm the Technical Critic. This has been my technical critique, and I will see you in the next episode.